Uber drivers are hungry, underpaid, sick of being treated like crap, and we now know full details for when the next strike slash protest will be. And yes, they've even announced there's going to be more very soon afterwards. Hey everyone, this is Kevin the Apptrepreneur, and yeah, I know we're getting into the whole debate thing, like, is this a strike? Is this a protest? For my money, it's basically a protest, but nevertheless, this is the story that the narrative is going, so that's how we're going to read it. Now, let's look at this article real quick. We're going to do 2 articles on this one, but don't worry, we won't spend a lot of time on this one. Where Business Insider has this headline: long hours, isolated loneliness, and confusing fees. Uber drivers in Washington, D.C. are struggling to make ends meet. Now, the article, of course, here's where it is. New research from Georgetown University has codified what many Uber drivers have felt for years. It's hard to get ahead when your boss is an algorithm. The Georgetown researchers published their study on Thursday after interviewing 40 drivers in the Washington, D.C. area over 2 years. The results aren't meant to be representative of the thousands of partners, as Uber calls them, working on the platform worldwide. Rather, the study, the author said, the data collected and reviewed here is evidence of the structures of work that Uber drivers navigate and the kinds of worker challenges that many face in one of the most visible platform workplaces. Yeah, we've been talking about this for a long time. You drive for this platform, you're not getting ahead. Yes, I always have to bring up, I have seen other Uber tubers who make a lot of money every week. What they're not showing you and what you're not seeing is how many hours they put into it. I mean, you don't see that it takes them more than 60 hours a week of working. You don't see the dead miles. You don't see basically the lack of a life. Now, one time Uber advertised that a full-time position, you can, like 40 hours a week, you could make $90,000 a year. Now you have to work like 80 hours a week to achieve that. Like, it's pretty much doubled. And now Uber advertises as the ultimate part-time job because, there's only so long you can BS people before they catch on to the truth. And I don't think this study necessarily motivated anyone. I think everyone who drives for Uber Lyft know that this is a thing, but you read a story like that, and then you see a story like this. Uber drivers plan 12-hour strike as company looks toward IPO. Now, full disclosure, I have gotten to know several of the people who are planning these strikes. I like them. I encourage what they do. Now, as a neutral outside voice, I have to stress, I still believe you need to do more than 12 hours. You need to be prepared to walk away from this company. I don't think this will be very effective if after 12 hours you go back to work. That's not going to actually convince Uber to do anything. However, I am giving them praise still because they did something the last time that no other strike was able to do. They got the media's attention and took control of the narrative. And I was worried for a while that they had lost that control of the narrative because we hadn't seen a follow-up strike. But look at this. It's on Fortune. And they're talking about a strike before the protest even happens. So when the protest happens, the media is going to latch onto it. It's going to spread. And by the way, they've also kind of announced like, oh, and by the way, that IPO you're planning, yeah, we're going to strike and protest that too. So here's the article. Not everyone's thrilled about Uber's looming IPO. Well, that's one of the things. I have to say pretty upfront and honestly, I don't think the IPO is really the driver's big concern right now. I think it's just livable wages. But the IPO is rubbing salt in the wound because that there's going to be new millionaires born, maybe possibly billionaires from the IPO, and the drivers aren't getting anything. And some of you are saying, well, what about the appreciation bonuses? Yeah, pennies on the mile. And I've heard at least 4 people, and I'm a 5th person, who is not getting their bonus because Uber is finding ways to temporarily deactivate their accounts and not pay it. But I don't want to get into that too much. Drivers of the rideshare service are organizing a limited time work stoppage in 7 cities to bring attention to their lack of benefits and recent pay reductions. Now, that is already a big deal because they did the last time they did this protest, it was in one city, which was LA. And it caught a lot of attention. So now it's like time to up the game. 7 cities on the same day. Brilliant. I love it. Absolutely love it. And drivers are forming online groups in San Francisco, San Diego, Los Angeles, Chicago, Minneapolis, Philadelphia, and Washington, D.C. to organize the effort. The action is currently set for May 8th, which I do intend to at least go to part of that, although I do have a follow-up on a potential root canal, so that might cut the visit short, but I will be there for at least the beginning of it. Joining them are advocacy groups such as California's Gig Workers Rising and Chicago Rideshare Advocates. You know, I'm going to give a little personal advice right off the get-go. I don't think you should have different advocacy groups. I think the groups need to come together. They need to merge. They have to pick a few people to make the decisions, or maybe arbitrate the decisions. They all vote. Everyone votes on it, and then they have the people at the top deciding how the strikes are going to go and so forth. I think by splitting the advocacy groups up like this, I think that can only be bad in the long run, but that's just my opinion. Beyond better salaries and benefits, workers tell Gizmodo they are seeking decision-making transparency and a greater voice for the drivers. That's a new one. The last time, I didn't hear anything about greater transparency, but, you know, nice that they're adding on to it. Of course, it's unlikely that Uber will completely shut down in cities where the work actions take place, but it could drive up prices and wait times for customers. And drivers are increasingly congregating in Facebook groups and other social media hubs, including mine, the Apptrepreneur Hangouts. Link below, you can join the group. Uber is still in the early stages of its IPO roadshow, and there's no estimated date yet when shares will be trading, though it is expected to be one of the largest in history. Yeah, we'll see about that. Recent filings with the SEC, however, show the lead the company has over Lyft. Last year, it posted $11.3 billion in revenue versus Lyft's $2.2 billion. It had 91 million users in 2018 compared to Lyft's 30+7 million, and it has nearly twice as many drivers. So yeah, it's going to be harder to hurt Uber than it would be to hurt Lyft. But here's the thing. May 8th, that's the next protest. A follow-up protest was always important. I'm happy to see that they are doing it again, which is something none of the other protests I've seen actually did. Other protests protested for like a day. Usually not a lot of people showed up, and then they never did it again. The fact that there's a follow-up means that they're serious about it this time. And I have heard people from the group tell me, and they've told me this in the forum, so it's not like this is a secret. But they also plan to protest on the day of the IPO, which I felt that was like a huge missed opportunity when Lyft's IPO came and there weren't people in Wall Street protesting. I know that they're targeting Uber, but Lyft is just as guilty. I think you got to protest them both. And so when they didn't do that, I was like, well, great. I guess that's that. Maybe we've lost it. But here it is. They're doing it again. And I'm finding out through this on Fortune. Well, okay, I found out about this early on, but I wanted to see if the media actually picked it up. I was going to announce it if, like, you know, we got to like the last few days, and then I said, okay, just let everyone know this is where it's going to be. But now I can say, like, thanks to Fortune, Bloomberg, Vox, all these websites, they're talking about it. The narrative is still in the driver's hands right now. They can still take this to the home run. So yes, congratulations, guys. Again, the only thing about this right now that I still don't like is that it's like a 12-hour strike. That's not a strike. That's a protest. You have to be willing to walk away from this. If you go back to work, then you've essentially folded your cards, in my opinion. I know there's baby steps, but a baby step should not include going back to them, in my opinion. But I will be there to, you know, live stream this, because one of them is going to be near my area, so, you know, I can do that. And hopefully we will see more of these, and we will see bigger strikes and protests. The last one was pretty big, and if this one could be bigger, then who knows? There could be a lot to be said, and yeah, keep the pressure up, because that's the only way Uber is going to change. Keep the pressure up to Uber, because another thing these strikes do, or these protests, is that it gets the government's attention. And when the government and the voters see this sort of thing, they don't like it. And that could affect legislation, which, as we've seen with the S1 filings for the IPO, well, if these things start to happen, then that totally undermines their business model. They don't want that to happen right now. But anyway, that's where we're going to end talking about that. What do you folks think? Are you going to be at the strike? Am I going to see you there? Or are you not really supportive of this? Because some people don't support these protests. But either way, I'd love to know. Comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe. If you enjoy my videos, consider becoming a Patreon member. It's totally optional, of course, but even as little as $1 a month goes a long way to helping the channel run smoothly and you get access to my Patreon's exclusive blog. Also, if you want to save money on gas, because gas is on the rise, check out the Get Upside app. It's totally free, but you get money back and cash bonuses whenever you get gas at participating gas dispensaries. And if you want to check out the Apptrepreneur vlogs, it's a new channel. New content is going up every week. And finally, if you want to talk to me and other drivers, some of them who are involved in this protest, check out the Apptrepreneur Hangout. You have to be approved, but we've been approving most people. And as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one.